Hey everyone, welcome to our new webinar, How to Write Content That Converts, Writing Secrets You Can Use to Land More Leads No Matter Your Skill Level. I'm Zach North, the Marketing Director at Silver Hill Funding, and I'm here with Juan Barcelo, our National Sales Manager. Hey Juan.
Hey Zach, nice to be with you again, and thanks for everybody to be on the call today.
So before we start, I just want to talk a little bit about why we're doing this webinar. We do a ton of marketing webinars here at Silver Hill, and usually we're saying things, and I'm sure we all hear this from other places as well, about the importance of marketing, the importance of putting out good content, but no one ever really talks about how to do that. And so I think it's really important to go through some tactics, some things we've learned along the way as we publish content for our company that maybe you could use for your business. And so it's going to be a little more in-depth than some of our other presentations, but hopefully you take away one or two things that you might want to use, either on your LinkedIn profile or on your company blog or things like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started now. First, what I'd like to do is show some of the issues with marketing. And by marketing, I'm talking about what we call outbound marketing, which is the type of marketing you pay for. So any kind of ad. These days, most of our ads are online display ads, so banners, things that show up on newsletters and other websites. I think we all know that it's very difficult to get value out of these ads, but I put together some stats that really hammer it home. For instance, the first one you see, overall average click rate for all types of display ads, 0.17%. So you're not even getting close to 1% of a click-through. And the click-through, as you know, doesn't mean anything. It just means they get to the page. So what percentage of those people are actually, getting in contact with you? Then about 200 million internet users install ad blocking software. So no matter how good our ads are, people aren't even seeing them in the first place. And finally, only about 22% of businesses are satisfied with their conversion rates. And based on those other two stats, I'm surprised that number is as high as it is. Because I think if you talk to everyone or anyone who is advertising, typically they'll say, man, I wish more people would click on those ads. I wish we can get better return. And of course, we need to see that return or else we're not going to keep advertising. As a solution, more recently, I would say definitely in maybe the past 10 years, marketers have been turning to what is referred to as inbound marketing. So other people call it content marketing. And the idea behind this is that instead of trying to pay for clicks, trying to buy advertising and reach out to people to get them to contact you, you can produce great content on your own, show value to your target audience, and these people will want to connect with you. They'll choose to do it, and they'll seek you out. So that's what that inbound part means. I have some stats here. Content marketing generates 3 times more leads as outbound marketing, which are ads, essentially, and costs 62% less. 78% of consumers believe organizations providing custom content are interested in building good relationships, so there's more trust there. And then 70% of internet users want to learn about products through content instead of advertisements. And I think we're all that way. If we can read a good piece of content, if we really learn about products, learn about a lender, learn about something in our industry, I think we're more willing to do that than just get an ad, pushed in front of our faces. Our instinct for ads are to click off them. Whereas if we see content we want to read, we will choose to do that. And it just builds goodwill with your audience. So I think if you look at content, if you zoom out a bit, you see that content builds awareness. We do this when we launch new programs, a new product, a new promotion. We're not going to just send a bullet list with all the different features. We're going to write a story about it. We're going to issue a press release. We're going to send an email. We're going to create a case study. So you're learning about new products through content. Second, content improves your Google page rank. Without getting too much into it, Google analyzes a few different aspects of your content when they decide which result gets to the top of your search. And as we all know, you never go to the second page of a Google search. If it's not one of the first couple of results, you probably just change your search, right? So the goal is to rank really highly. In order to do that, you need to produce good content that keeps people interested on your page longer, and so content has that value. Of course, there's education. There's building trust. We saw that stat. People will trust companies that try to produce valuable content instead of those who just send ads. And finally, content tells your brand story, and story is so important. We think we might not think story is valuable for financial institutions, but what it really is, because at the end of the day, they need to know who you are, they need to trust you, and need to understand your process before they choose you. As a quick example from what I was talking about with the Google search, what I did was I Googled small balance commercial mortgage, which is what we do at Silver Hill. And you can see that first you have the ad, so there's nothing you really do about an ad, but the first organic result is us, which is awesome. But you see, it's not our homepage. It's a blog post. And the reason for that is that we wrote this blog post, used terms that Google identified as high-value terms, and we met enough of the needs of the people who were searching this small balance commercial mortgage term that Google decided to rank the page higher and higher until over time it became the #1 result in Google for small balance commercial mortgage. These things don't happen overnight, but this is the value, and so you just can assume that when people are interested in learning about this topic, they will click on you because you're the one that ranks the highest. The problem is that we've kind of all heard this before, but no one takes the next step in saying, okay, well, we understand content's important, but how do you do it? We don't know what to write about. We don't know how to clearly say what we mean. We don't know how to get people to read it. So we don't know where to put it so that our audience is going to get it. And then we don't know how to prove whether our effort was worthwhile, because writing, content does take time. Editing takes time. Publishing, distributing takes time. And then we stand back and wonder if anyone ever clicked on it or did anything about it. So that's kind of what we're gonna try to tackle these issues today. I think the first way to really attack those questions is through structure. Abraham Lincoln said, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. I think what we do is we stare at a blank page until we get really just too scared of it, and we move on to something that we know how to do. And we're also busy that there are plenty of other things we can do besides trying to write. But if you sharpen the axe a little bit, you create this structure, writing just becomes another thing that you do. It has a time, it has a place, and as we'll see, you'll have objectives that you know how to accomplish. Before we really get into it, I think we need to kind of pat ourselves on the back a little bit. We add a lot of value, or we assign a lot of value to professional writers because they have the writing ability, they understand grammar, syntax, usage, they know how to write a good story, and maybe we'll never quite get there, but you have something that they'll never have either, and that's subject matter expertise, familiarity with industry jargon, and knowledge of the distribution channels. So like LinkedIn, industry forums, all that kind of thing. I think if you've worked with freelance writers, you know that it's very tough for them to sound like they know what they're talking about, and especially in an industry like ours, it takes a long time to really act like you know what you're talking about. And people have so many other things to do that if they sense that your content is not valuable or you're just trying to get a click, it won't have any value. Before I move on, someone asked if this presentation will be available. Definitely will. I'm going to send it out tomorrow to everyone who registered for this presentation. And I think that's important because we're going to cover a lot of stuff and it's hard to all get at once. So yeah, I'm definitely going to send this off. So if you're going to add structure, the way to do that is what's referred to as a content brief. And I want to stress that it's nothing fancy, right? Like almost anything else, like imagine if you're launching a new product or you're doing some kind of campaign with your business, you would probably create this kind of structure. So you set an objective, even if it's for a blog or even if it's a LinkedIn post that you're sharing. Like, what's the point? Like, what are you trying to do? Most likely, you're trying to get your audience to contact you. And you want to put out something of value so that they reach out to you either by thank you or that's interesting, can I learn more? Or do you do this type of business? And so it's like a launching point for a conversation. That's typically what your objective will be. Then you set your audience, and it's not just the mortgage industry, right? Like, you're trying to talk to a specific type of person. Maybe it's a type of broker who's going to refer you business. Maybe it's a type of borrower. Maybe you want to create a piece just for investors of a certain type of property, and you want to share your expertise. And through that, they'll know, like, oh, this is a person I should talk to if I want to get my loan. Then a topic. You might have a general idea what you want to talk about, but the more specific you can get, the more focused you can be, and the easier it will be to write. I think a lot of times we're staring at a blank page because we have a lot that we want to say, but we don't know how to focus it. So if you set your topic in a very specific way, it'll be easier to write. Content structure. If you read a lot of articles or blogs, you notice that there are only so many different types. There's a how-to, there's a list, 5 reasons you should do this. There's a case study, the time that we closed this type of loan and it was hard, but we got it done because of this and that. Industry insight, setting the structure of that is important. If you don't have much experience writing, setting 3 main points before you start is a really good way to create that little template for yourself. If you know that through this piece you're gonna list 3 simple things with a couple of supporting sentences for each one, then before you know it, your blog will be done. And finally, word count, and that just sets you gives you those guidelines, so you know, like, okay, I only need to write 450 words, not too difficult. Before you start, these are the things that I think a lot of people don't think about, and it really affects content. You have to know your distribution channel, because, like, if you think about it, what you write for content on your website is really going to be different from a Facebook post, right? Because your Facebook post is going to be much shorter. Maybe it's more conversational. If you write a LinkedIn post, maybe it's a little more professional sounding than your Facebook post, but still different from your website blog, right? So that's important to know. Keywords. Now, we don't need to get too involved in search engine optimization. That can get very complicated. But the idea is to write content that people are looking for. So if you know your audience are investors of multifamily properties, and what you'd like to do is show up on their Google search when they're looking for a financing solution, then you should think about using multifamily terms. And we're going to talk more about that. But the idea is to use words that you imagine your audience is going to use to hopefully find you. And finally, know your end game. This is simply a call to action. Because without that, without specifically telling people what to do, they're just not going to do it. So even if it's basic, even if it's overly direct in your opinion, if you say, contact me to learn more, like, get in touch with me to see how I can help you, that is a really important aspect of content that a lot of times people just don't do. The last thing here I just want to show you in a visual way, that helps me, is just that if you have content, and just think of it like this. So you have a 600-word blog. Instead of thinking, man, how am I going to write 600 words about this topic? Just chunk it out. 100-word chunk for the intro, reason 1, reason 2, reason 3, and a conclusion. And oftentimes your conclusion, when you start to write more, that's almost like boilerplate. Like, you will continue to use a similar conclusion on your post. So that takes away a lot of words right there. So then if you do it this way, before you know it, you'll be done with your piece. So I think one of the issues I find when I talk to people about content is they don't know what to write about. And I think the real problem is that they're looking at it kind of backwards. So Seth Godin, who's one of the most popular marketers in the world right now, said, don't find customers for your products, find products for your customers. And what that means is that if you know your audience and you know what they're looking for, then they will literally tell you what to write about. And so you don't have to come up with ideas, because the ideas are being put in front of you. And here's how you do that. So we Google so many things every day. I'm sure you use Google. I use Google all the time. When you search for something, on the bottom of the page, Google gives you this kind of message. I'm sure you've seen this. It says searches related to. And so I typed in commercial mortgages as an example here. So Google produces these results of similar searches. Why do they do that? Because they want to keep you on Google. But what they're showing you are what other people are searching for, and those are the people who are interested in your topic. And if you look at these not as other things to click on, but as potential topics for other content, I think it's a good way to go, because you know it's already proven that people are clicking on these types of links, or else Google wouldn't show them. So if you're saying, what should I write about today? You can look at, okay, people also ask, what is the current interest rate for commercial mortgages? How does a commercial mortgage work? Like that, you don't even need to change the words. That's literally a topic right there. How many years is a commercial mortgage? Obviously, it depends, right? So you can make a whole series of blog posts on the different types of term lengths for commercial loans. And so instead of having to come up with that, you have these topics right here. On the next slide here, beyond just Google, there are FAQ sections of industry websites and, discussion forums. Maybe you're a member of these forums for like, mortgage industry kind of news sites have these forums. What these are people who are essentially your target audience, and they're asking questions. And the great way to think about a content topic is an answer to a question. And so, like, if you just look in the middle there, like all those questions, if I don't have money to put into a startup, can I still get a loan? What would be considered collateral? If I have no collateral, can I still qualify for a loan? Do I need to identify my location prior to applying for a loan? Like, you can just use these as a springboard to provide valuable content. And you're not wasting your time because there's an audience for this, or else they wouldn't have posed the question. So moving on to tips to improve your technique. There are a million tips, really, and I wish I knew them, or else I'd write much better content myself. But I have learned some things over time. There are some really good books out there that I think when we send a follow-up email, I might try to direct you to some content that's been really valuable to me as I've been writing more. So I just want to share some kind of general ones. And again, I'm going to send this presentation out to everyone, so you don't have to note these down right now. First, writing well means reading well. This is a quote from Stephen King. If you don't have time to read, you don't have time or the tools to write. Simple as that. I find that the more I read in the given week, the better my writing gets that week. And it's because, you're just spending time with the words, with the language. And so if you find that you haven't read a book in a while, and it doesn't have to be like a novel, but just reading industry websites, reading news posts, if you devote some time of your day to reading, I think over time by osmosis, you'll find that you start to emulate some of those tactics yourself. And then before you know it, you're kind of using some of the same structure, the same transitions, and you're getting a sense for what good writing looks like. And I think if you're reading Stephen King, you might end up writing like Stephen King. But if you look for industry professionals that you like, without, of course, plagiarizing, but by just simply reading their material, you'll start to feel better about your writing. 2, show, don't tell. This is a quote from Chekhov. Don't tell me the moon is shining. Show me the glint of light on broken glass. Obviously, we're not going to write like this for our content, but what that means is that, if you go to a trade show in our industry, you're going to get a bunch of flyers. And if you look at the average flyer, it's going to have about 25 bullet points about a certain program or a certain solution. And that's all. And that's fine, because we do need to learn about that information. But if you think about that compared to how about like a case study of how that program solved a specific need for a borrower, or how your solution helped a broker close more loans over a given month. Like, if you can illustrate a story, like presenting the challenge that a borrower had and the specific solution that only you were able to provide, like the bank wasn't able to help, but through my program, I was able to get them this kind of loan. And by the way, here's a picture of the property. And, the loan was this it was a purchase, and there were these issues. The property type was X. Like, if you can tell a story, it's much easier for people to identify with you, because chances are they've dealt with the same thing. And so the next time you're introducing a new product or you're sending an email, think about maybe instead of all those bullets, like just telling a quick story and using pictures if possible. This is a huge one, and I think we do this all the time, using active verbs and not passive. And I try to include an example here, like a very basic one, so we can see. Oftentimes in our writing, we put the subject, in this case, Silver Hill Funding, at the end of the sentence because it sounds like a little more formal, and we want to sound smart, right? So we'll say something like, the loan was closed by Silver Hill Funding. But the problem is that's kind of a weak sentence, because there's not really any action. Like, things are happening to you instead of you doing the action. So if you spin that sentence around and say Silver Hill Funding closed the loan, not only are you saying what you're trying to say in a shorter way, but there's action. Like, you are doing something and nothing is happening to you. And it might seem like kind of a subtle difference, but if you look through something you've written, and it could just be emails or any kind of proposal, any memo, anything you've written, and look back and maybe with a red pen just kind of circle the instances where you use passive voice, and just for the sake of, an experiment, switched it around and read it to yourself, I think you'd find that what you wrote turns out to be have much greater punch to it. Like, it just sounds a little better. And so you might have heard people always talking about, avoid passive language, but you never really explained what it is. This is all it really is. A small but important thing to keep in mind of. This is, this is a funny one to me, I think, because not even changing what you write about, but the way in which you write can make life a lot easier for your readers. What I've done is I've posted the same content on the left and the right, but I've switched the way that it's presented with more space on the left and just longer paragraphs on the right. And I think if you look at it, maybe take a step back and look at what's on the screen, the content on the right seems really hard to read, and it's kind of daunting, and you kind of just don't want to do it because it looks like it's too much to read. Whereas the content on the left, it is in smaller, like bite-sized pieces, and so it's easier to get through it. When I'm writing an article or a blog or an email, if you receive emails, from Silver Hill, like what I try to do in those emails is I try never to write more than 2 sentences in a paragraph. So if I sense that I'm trying to write something long, I'm going to split it up into 3 different paragraphs. And that way, you don't have to read too much at once. And here on the left, I've even made more space between the lines. And that's important too. I think the people who really started doing this were newspaper journalists, and they had to do these kind of things to ensure people could legibly read a newspaper. And I think there's a lot of things now that, people don't read newspapers as much. There's still a lot of things you can learn from that kind of writing. So if you're about to put, a LinkedIn post or a Facebook post that's longer than a few sentences, before you hit publish, just look at how much you've written in a paragraph and maybe break this up. Like this here, this should be at least 2 paragraphs, and that's what I mean. Then I say be yourself. Especially people who don't write that much, they get a little nervous about writing, and so what they try to do is sound overly formal or use the best word. And when you spend so much time looking for the best word, that's time that you're not actually writing and not practicing. So, and then what you end up doing is sounding like someone else. So I think what you try to avoid is overly formal language, terms you wouldn't use in conversation, and of course plagiarism. It's very tempting. I see it all the time where people take a good post, change some words around, and publish it again. That's wrong on many different levels, but it kind of you're really shooting yourself in the foot, because what you're trying to do is provide an extension of your brand, because what you want is for people to connect with you. That's what we set as our objective, right? So if your objective is for people to know who you are, to see you as an expert, and to reach out to you so they could become a business partner, you really want to be yourself, because that is what you're selling. It is your ability to help. So authenticity is crucial. And finally, keep practicing. Ann Hanley is one of the, again, maybe the most famous content marketer we have in this country right now. Says writing is like the gym. The more often you go, the more results you see. So what's really important is just writing more, publishing that blog, even if you don't love it, writing that LinkedIn post, even if you think it's not perfect. If it accomplishes your objective and you think it has actual value besides self-promotion, then and it's compliant with your company, then you should publish it, because that's the only way you really feel more comfortable over time. So this is a big one, and this is the last section of our little writing part here before Juan will share more about Silver Hill. But it's where and when to publish your content. So people ask us all the time, well, where do I post it? Because I want people to click on it. And so the answer generally is it depends, but we know that's a terrible answer. That doesn't really help. And so here's some information that maybe you can use when you want to start publishing more content. The important thing is that it doesn't just have to be one place. When you write a good piece of content, like let's pretend you're launching a new program, and so you have to describe the program. The mistake is to think, okay, I have to write a press release, I have to write an email, I'm going to make a flyer, I'm going to write a blog, and then I'm going to make a LinkedIn post. That is daunting, and no one's going to feel like doing that, and it's going to be too hard to do. Instead, write that content, the core content, and then repurpose as needed. This is how you really scale your content, and it's crucial if you want to start publishing more content. If you find value in inbound marketing and you want to take some dollars away from advertising, you have to learn how to repurpose your content, because this is how you just maximize your work and give yourself more time to do your actual, the actual business work that you need to do on a given day, because no one wants to be, writing all day long. So repurposing is important. The next thing I'll say is that you have to establish a content headquarters, your HQ. And so some of us have really fancy websites, and that's where we want our headquarters to be. And by headquarters, I mean when you publish the post, you want people to click on that and go to that resource, because that's where they can connect with you. And like we said earlier, the objective is for them to reach out to you. So if you have awesome lead forms on your website, if you have beautiful web pages and a nice contact form, then by all means make that your content headquarters, because you're trying to drive the leads to that area. But a lot of us, we don't have amazing websites, or maybe we don't have any website. Maybe we don't have a marketing team to build our website, right? So we do all this work from like LinkedIn, and I see that all the time, and that's totally fine. In that sense, or instance, LinkedIn is your content headquarters. You publish a blog on LinkedIn. You share that on your profile, on your page. You connect with new people through LinkedIn and direct them to that piece. And so what I'm trying to illustrate here is a mini funnel, I guess. And before you start publishing a lot of content, just think about, okay, where's my end place I want people to go to, where it's easiest for me to connect with them, and then, start to try to do business with them and grow my profile. Now I want to show a graphic that's about, it's a content grid, but it's mostly about distribution channels. I think many times we try to find one place to put content, but depending on the piece of content, it may not belong in just one place, or it may not belong anywhere that you're thinking, because for pieces like blogs or high-level social posts, like that may belong on LinkedIn posts. But then let's say you have a new product guide or a new product sheet, pricing matrix type document that you don't want everyone to see, or you think it requires more detail. Maybe that's not put on the social post. Maybe that's not placed on your website. Maybe that's distributed through email, or maybe that is shared, one-on-one or in person even, So when you're thinking about where to put your content, think about what your objective is first, but then at what stage of your customer journey do you think this lives? So I think it's just generally a good practice to think about this customer journey and try to map the things you write to the different points. And generally that customer journey will be like awareness, consideration, and then like transaction, close, whatever you want to call it. If you can fill up those three areas with content that helps people learn about you, helps them trust you, and helps them, or like you and then trust you, or the other way around, however it works for you, if you can map content to each of those places, you'll be in a good spot. Finally, now, when should you publish? What day? Instead of saying it depends, I will try to answer this question. There is no perfect day to publish. We've tried every day. And then some people say, never send an email on a Friday afternoon. What that means is that no one sends an email on Friday afternoons, and maybe that's actually the best time to send, because you're not competing with a million other people, right? So there is no perfect day. What is important is consistency. If you're going to publish on Tuesdays, then make it Tuesday every time so that your audience knows what to expect from you. Make a calendar, put the information there so you know what you need to do on a given day, and then publish. Like we know Sunday Night Football is going to come on Sunday night, and we know what channel it's on, and that's just what it is and when it's going to happen, and there's value there. So if you pick a day, no matter what day it is, just have that be your day. Finally, writing is rewriting. Being a writer isn't about being a certain type of person. It's about doing the work. What William Zinsser is saying there is that, none of us are perfect. None of us are amazing writers, but we can all get better. And once we realize that we all do write, even if we're not, novelists, we write emails all day long. We write memos. We write press releases. We write proposals. We're writing all day. And so taking these tactics, working, practicing, getting better. That's what it's about. So I hope you found that valuable. I'm going to keep on publishing content like this, keep on promoting this. If you find this kind of stuff valuable, like we do silver sessions across the country, and I go to a lot of them, people are always talking to me about marketing. So I get the sense that it's an important topic. So I'll have my email address at the end, but if you want to reach out, if you want to learn more about this kind of stuff, I'd be super happy to talk to you. And then I could get a sense like, okay, we should publish more content like this. This is valuable. So I'd really appreciate you reaching out when you get a chance. And then now I'm going to toss over to Juan.
Zach, thanks a lot. Great job again, folks. Zach does a great job for us running our marketing department. And as you guys know, we do a lot of volume marketing. So, great job, Zach. And we're happy that Zach's on our team. And the fact of the matter is that he's there to help not only us, but all of our broker clients and customers out there as well. So just want to give you a quick look at what we can offer here at Silver Hill Funding. Obviously, we are a wholesale direct commercial real estate lender, and we're in the alternative solution space. So we like to provide, financing solutions for folks who either haven't been able to work with banks, community banks, other agency lenders, or choose not to. So what are the kind of deals? When does it make sense? Borrowers have been turned down by banks, borrowers who have maturing loans coming due, and their bank has asked them to refinance out of their program. Borrowers who want to get out of a bridge loan that has a high rate and is a very short term, 12 months, 24 months, and they want to get into a more stable type loan. We can also do loans where we don't use tax returns. So we have, several different options between full doc and light doc as well. So some folks just don't want to use their tax returns when they're doing financing for commercial property, so we can help them. And finally, cashing out. Cash outs are about 50% of our business. We do cash out loans for both investors and small business owners, and anywhere from people that are looking to reinvest that money in other real estate or use that money for working capital, inventory, or any other type of business use is another good reason to work with us. So again, we mentioned real estate investors and we mentioned small business owners. Various different reasons why a real estate investor would come to us, as well as a small business owner. Especially business owners are looking for business loans consistently, and the options out there are very either high priced or short term, and they just may add more pressure to that small business person's already stressed business strategy. So we offer some, lower price, more affordable type of financing for small business owners as well. As brokers, we have an excellent program. We don't charge points. We are a direct lender and we service our own loans, so we do not charge points. We allow brokers that work with us to make those points. So anywhere from 3 to 5 points, it is typical for brokers to make when they're using our program for financing. Many of our brokers like our program as well because we do offer to pay yield spread premium that's not reflected on the closing statement. So that's always a very important point when we're talking about wholesale commercial real estate business. We also have an alliance program that we basically, it's more of an affinity program where we like to reward folks who send us multiple loans every month and can close those loans within the month. This is additional fee income on top of any broker origination points or yield spread that our broker clients make. So very exciting program, and we pay out every month about $30,000 to $40,000 to different brokers in addition to all of the funds or all of the fees fee income that they made during the loan origination process. So our brokers really like sending us multiple deals so that they can take advantage of this basically free money. So we are in the commercial real estate space, and I just wanted to show you what are the properties that we prefer to lend on. This is pretty much our box. Tier 1 is multifamily and mixed use, which is probably about 30 to 40% of our total business. So we see a lot of these, your typical smaller loan, under $1 million, for a multifamily or mixed use property, and they're all over the place. So since we lend nationwide, we see them from many different markets. We also lend on Tier 2 properties. It's our preference to lend on commercial property. So we have a wide variety of different property types that we can offer financing on. So at a glance, really our sweet spot is $250,000 to $1 million, although we can go up to $5 million and as low as $100,000 in loan amount. So while we, talk about $250,000 to $5 million, we can really go to $5 or go as low as $100,000. But our sweet spot is really under $1 million. We have rates as low as 5 3/4. Folks really like our pricing because it's very, very close to what a bank would offer out there. And the good part is that we amortize our loans over 30 years. So despite having a little bit higher rates in the bank, our payments end up being a lot lower, which provides increased cash flow for these borrowers. So 30-year amortizations, we even have a 30-year fixed product that people really like. We can do LTVs up to 80%. And, of course, cash outs are available and to the max LTV. As far as credit scores, we go as low as 650. Different options for prepayment penalties. We really stay away from rural property. We really want to stick to the urban cores. We will make exceptions on a case-by-case basis outside of those MSAs. As far as eligible borrowers, U.S. citizens, permanent residents, aliens, or any legal entities, with the exception of trusts, and foreign nationals are also not eligible. And of course, we offer that alternative underwriting that provides a solution outside of typical bank financing. So I mentioned earlier we can do several different documentation types for our loans. We can go full doc, which is typically what a bank would do, using tax returns or even business bank statements. We can go Lite doc if tax returns are not to be used, whether they show enough income or not, or borrowers just don't want to deal with using tax returns. So we have the full doc, the Lite doc options, and finally we are coming out with a no Doc Streamline program in which we are going to focus on our smaller loan amounts and really make them very easy to close by not requiring documentation. There are some products similar to this out there in the market that are known as stated products. This is a similar product, and the idea here is require less documentation and close the loan faster. Finally, we also offer loans on 1 to 4 residential investment properties that are being held for rentals, long-term. Very popular product. Our pipeline has been growing over the last year, and while it's not our main focus, we do want to continue to offer this and are happy to provide this solution for our brokers. This is also a no-doc type program where we use market rents to underwrite the properties. So, as we said before, we have several different documentation types that we offer and, several different solutions that we offer. And to Zach's point earlier, showing an example, a real live example, is really what people react to. And him and I always work together on our closed loans every month, and we really like to focus on marketing what we've done so that when people see loans like this, they can say, hey, I've seen a property property like that or a loan like that. I had a request like that. Let me see if Silver Hill can help us. Look at what they were able to do. So showing an example of the kind of product that you offer is key in your marketing approach. Okay? So for us, for example, this is a property in Arizona where the broker made $14,000 on the transaction. And the story was that a business owner wanted to execute a cash out on their office property. They went with the bank statement program that we have because they didn't have to provide tax returns. So this is an owner-occupied borrower where we just used 12 months of bank statements and gave them cash out. And for a broker to make $14,000, great income for just one loan. Here's a property in Ohio that we did, a multifamily. Broker didn't make as much, obviously not as big a loan, $4,800. This was for an investor needing a financing solution on a purchase in Ohio. They got a 30-year fix, which really is something new that Silver Hill came out with. And now what we've seen is some of the other competitors in the market have also gone to this. This is something that we didn't expect was going to be very popular, but it is extremely popular. So a traditional 30-year loan on a commercial property, much like a residential loan. Here's a cash out in Illinois, rather larger loan, 2.3, and a real good payday for the broker, $23,000. And again, this was a larger cash out transaction, which is not very accepted or attractive to banks or other lenders. We were able to provide a large cash out to this deal, and the broker really made out with a good payday. So getting started, if you want to take advantage of our multiple documentation programs, or you saw one of our closed examples that looks like a deal that you're working on, give us a call, submit your deal. We usually issue letters of intent within 24 hours, pretty quickly, usually same day. And we only charge really $500 deposit to get the process started. So, it's a great product that we're offering in the market, very good alternative, best-in-class pricing, and lowest deposit to really get your loan started. So there's very little skin in the game required on the front end. So that's us. Again, we're here to help. Any questions you may have on marketing or sales or any other type of product question or any other type of marketing question, just feel free to reach out to either one of us and we'll get in contact with you soon. So, Zach, thanks again. Great job today. Anything you want to add?
No, thank you so much, Juan. Really appreciate it. As I said, I'm going to be sending this presentation to you tomorrow. So look for that, and hope you guys have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us.